Okay, this code that I'm showing you is in mqueue.c. It's in the lecture code um, on Git for this course. And so it's just demonstrating passing a string from the parent process to the child process using a message queue. And there's a note there in the second line of the comment about how to manually remove a message queue if somehow you create one and you haven't cleaned it up. I won't demonstrate that because I'm working from my iPad and I don't have a good terminal on here. So anyway, there's the headers that we need. I added this check macro here kind of for fun. You don't have to use it. It's not integral to what we're doing here, but I discovered it in an answer to a Stack Overflow question on mqueues or message queues. Thought it was pretty neat. So it's a macro. So you use check and then in brackets some logical condition you're going to test, and then if it is false, then it's going to do the 3 lines inside that if body there. So it's going to print the function name and the line number to standard error, and it's going to also call p error, and it's going to stringify. So this underscore x that I'm circling here, sorry, not underscore x, pound x, in a macro that stringifies the macro parameter x, so it turns it into a string so that we can print it, and then exit -1. Okay, so that is extra we don't really need, but I was having trouble debugging this, so I did find that useful. Okay, so the first real thing that we're going to do in main here is we're going to call mqueue_open. I just underlined it there. And I'm going to call my queue /ece252. Could have called it whatever I wanted as long as it started with a slash. And I want to create it, so I've used the open create flag, and I don't want to create it if it's already there. I want to fail if it already exists, so I've included the exclusive flag. And then I've made it read write because I want the parent to be able to write to it and the child to be able to read to it, and the child's going to inherit the message queue descriptor from the parent, so it's easiest just to make it read writable. And you can see the permissions there, 0600, that's user read and write permission. And unfortunately it's chopped off what should be right here. I didn't realize that. That's not good. But this would be attribute, just like that. So the attribute is defined above there. It's the struct, and I've set the max number of messages to 10 and the message size to 256 bytes. And then here I'm using that check macro, so I'm checking that I didn't get back a -1, so it opened okay. And then I'm going to fork, and I want to look at the parent code first. So first thing I do is I create the send buffer. It's just a char array, and I'm initializing it with this string ece252. It's got 6 printable characters, but it also will have the null character at the end, so the compiler will allocate 7 bytes or storage for 7 chars. And then I call mqueue_send here. So I use the message queue descriptor, I give it the char pointer, which is sendbuff. The size of sendbuff will return 7, so it will include the null character. And once again, it's chopped something off for me, and the priority I just made 0 because I'm just sending one message, so really priority doesn't matter. So here I'm using that check macro again to make sure that the return value is equal to 0, that is succeeded. And at that point, the parent waits, and it's waiting for the child to do its thing. What the child is going to do is it's going to receive that string, print it out, then it will close its message queue descriptor and it will exit. So once this wait returns here, then the parent will close the mqueue and then it will delete it with the unlink. If you don't have that mqueue unlink there, then the queue persists in the kernel memory, and you won't be able to run this example again until you manually delete it with the command up there in the top comment. Okay, so let's look at the child next. So that's case 0 there. So I made this 256 plus 1. I was thinking for 256 characters plus a possible null terminator. I should have just made it 256 because I'm passing a complete string, so it wasn't necessary. So I call mqueue.receive here. I give it the descriptor again. And again, now the child has their own copy of the message queue descriptor table, so that points to the same open message queue as the parents. And this value here has to be at least as big as the mqueue message size attribute that we defined when we opened this. So I made it 256. And then I use null for the priority because I know that I'm sending it a 0, and knowing the priority isn't useful here. This is a semicolon I'm trying to do. It's just giving me grief. Anyway, so I check that the bytes received is not -1, so it succeeded. And I could do something with the number of bytes, but I don't need to in this case. I know it's a string, so I'm just going to print received and then in single quotes the string, and in there the receive buffer will print. So then I close and exit, and that will return, the parent will wake up, close their descriptor, and then unlink the message queue. All right, that is it for message queues.